My name is Sierra. I am 32 years old, and for 15 years I believed that being the reliable daughter would eventually earn me my parents' love. I was the one who showed up. I was the one who paid their bills every single month for 7 years straight. I thought that was what good children did. Then my parents invited me to a family gathering. They announced their will. Everything went to my siblings. I got nothing, so I stopped paying their bills. 2 weeks later, my mom called to remind me of something that changed everything. Before I tell you what my mom said, let me know where you are watching from today. Comment your city below. If you have ever felt like the invisible child in your family, tap that like button. And make sure you subscribe, because what happened next turned everything upside down. I grew up in a quiet suburb outside Phoenix, Arizona. Our neighborhood had matching mailboxes and trimmed lawns, the kind of place where everyone waved at each other, but nobody really knew what happened behind closed doors. My family looked perfect from the outside. 2 parents, 3 kids, a dog named Chester. But inside that house, the dynamics were anything but equal. My father, Richard, was 61 years old when this story took place. He worked in manufacturing for most of his life until the industry started changing. My mother, Diane, was 59, a woman who prided herself on keeping the family together, even when that meant keeping certain truths hidden. Then there were my siblings. Nathan, my older brother, was 36. He was the firstborn son, the golden child who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Brooke, my younger sister, was 28. She was the baby of the family, the one who got whatever she wanted simply because she was the youngest and knew how to ask sweetly. And then there was me, Sierra, the middle child. The one who existed somewhere in the space between Nathan's importance and Brooke's charm. I was never the favorite. I was never the baby. I was simply the reliable one, the daughter who could handle things on her own. From the time I was young, I learned that different rules applied to different children in our house. When Nathan got into fights at school, my parents sat down with the principal and defended him. They said he was just expressing himself. They said boys would be boys. When he crashed his first car at 17 because he was speeding, they bought him another one within a month. When he dropped out of college after 1 semester because he found it boring, they said maybe traditional education was not for everyone. Brooke had her own set of privileges. She wanted designer clothes for high school, and my mother took her shopping every season. She wanted a car for her 16th birthday, and a shiny sedan appeared in the driveway with a bow on top. She wanted to go to a fancy private university, even though her grades were mediocre, and my parents took out loans to make it happen. When she maxed out her first credit card at 19, they paid it off without a lecture. When I asked for money to buy SAT prep books, my mother looked at me and said, "You are smart enough to figure it out on your own." When I needed help paying for my college application fees, my father said, "You will find a way, you always do." When I got accepted to a university with a partial scholarship, they congratulated me briefly and then turned back to whatever crisis Nathan or Brooke had created that week. So I learned. I learned to stop asking. I learned to handle everything myself. I studied harder than anyone in my class. I worked part-time jobs throughout high school and college. I applied for every scholarship I could find. I graduated with a degree in accounting at the top of my class with honors. I did it all without their help, and I told myself that one day they would notice. One day they would see how capable I was and feel proud. By the time I was 25, I'd landed a position as a senior accountant at a reputable firm. I was making good money, saving diligently, and building a life for myself. I bought my own apartment. I furnished it with things I had chosen and paid for myself. I felt accomplished. Meanwhile, Nathan was 30 years old and still bouncing from job to job. He would work somewhere for a few months, decide he did not like it, and quit. He borrowed money from our parents constantly, always promising to pay them back, never actually doing it. Brooke had gotten married at 22 to a man she barely knew, divorced him 2 years later, and moved back in with our parents. She spent her divorce settlement on vacations and handbags instead of getting back on her feet. But I did not judge them. I thought maybe life had been harder on them in ways I did not understand. I focused on my own path and tried to be the daughter who made things easier, not harder. That was when everything changed. 7 years before this story reached its peak, my father lost his job. The company he had worked at for over 2 decades was downsizing, and he was one of the casualties. He was 54 at the time, too old in the eyes of most employers, too proud to take just any position. My mother only worked part-time at a local grocery store, and her income was nowhere near enough to cover their expenses. They called a family meeting. Nathan and Brooke were there, sitting on the couch looking concerned but not offering anything concrete. My parents explained the situation. They could not make their mortgage payment. They were at risk of losing the house. I remember looking at my siblings waiting for one of them to step up. Nathan shifted in his seat and muttered something about being between jobs himself. Brooke said she wished she could help, but she was still recovering from her divorce. Neither of them offered a single dollar. So I did what I always did. I stepped up. I told my parents I would cover their mortgage until Dad found a new job. I set up automatic payments from my account. I told myself it was temporary, just a few months until things stabilized. My father did find work again about a year later, but the position paid significantly less than his previous job. The mortgage payments were still too much for them. I kept paying. I added their utility bills to my list, then their car insurance, then some medical bills that started piling up. Every month close to $2,500 left my account and went straight to supporting my parents. Money I could have saved. Money I could have invested. Money I could have used to travel or build my own future. Instead, it went to keeping my family afloat. Nathan and Brooke never contributed a single cent. When I mentioned it once to my mother, she said, "Nathan is going through a rough patch and Brooke just got divorced, you understand." I understood. I always understood. I told myself that being the strong one meant carrying more weight. I told myself that my parents would remember this one day. I told myself that love was shown through sacrifice. 7 years. That is how long I carried my family on my shoulders while being told I did not need anything in return. The first cracks appeared so subtly that I almost missed them. It started with small things, moments that felt off but were easy to dismiss if you were not paying attention. I was paying attention, but I chose to look away. I wanted so badly to believe that my family loved me the same way I loved them. It was Nathan's 36th birthday when I first felt the sting clearly. My parents organized a large celebration at their house. They invited extended family, neighbors, and friends. My mother spent days cooking his favorite dishes. My father set up decorations in the backyard. There was a cake with his name written in blue frosting, gifts wrapped in expensive paper, and a toast where my father called Nathan his pride and joy. My birthday had been 2 months earlier. My mother forgot. She texted me the day after with a simple message that said, "Oh honey, happy belated birthday. Things have been so busy. No party, no cake, no toast, just a late text and an excuse." I told myself it did not matter. I told myself I was too old to care about birthday parties. But something inside me noted it and filed it away. Then there was the situation with Brooke's car. Her vehicle broke down, something wrong with the transmission. She needed $3,000 to fix it. My mother called me, her voice sweet and careful, and said, "Sierra, honey, could you lend your sister some money for her car? She will pay you back, I promise. We will make sure of it." I transferred the money that same day. Brooke thanked me with a quick text. Months passed. Then a year. The money never came back. When I finally brought it up during a family dinner, my mother looked at me with disappointment in her eyes and said, "Sierra, you make plenty of money. Do not be so petty with your sister. She is struggling." I never mentioned it again. The phone call came on a Tuesday evening in September. I was at home finishing up some work when my mother's name flashed on my screen. She rarely called me unless she needed something, so I braced myself for another request. But her voice was different this time. Warmer, almost too warm. "Sierra, honey," she said, "your father and I want to invite you home this weekend. We are having a family gathering. Something important we need to discuss with everyone." I felt a flutter of hope in my chest. Maybe they were finally going to acknowledge everything I had done. Maybe they had planned something special. Maybe this was the moment I'd been waiting for. "What is it about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Nothing bad," my mother assured me. "We just want the whole family together. It has been too long since we have all sat down and talked." I agreed immediately. I even felt excited on the drive over that weekend, imagining the possibilities. Perhaps they wanted to thank me formally. Perhaps they had reconsidered things. Perhaps, finally, I would feel like I belonged. When I arrived at the house, Nathan and Brooke were already there. Their cars were in the driveway, and I could see them through the living room window laughing about something. I walked in with a smile, ready to join the warmth, but the warmth was not for me. The atmosphere shifted the moment I entered. It was subtle, like a temperature drop you feel on your skin, but cannot quite explain. Brooke glanced at me and then looked away quickly. Nathan had a strange expression on his face, almost like he was waiting for something, like he knew a secret I did not. My parents greeted me with hugs that felt rehearsed. My mother had prepared an elaborate dinner, roast chicken with all the trimmings, which she almost never did. Something about it felt like a stage being set, though I could not figure out for what. During dinner, the conversation stayed shallow. We talked about the weather, about a new restaurant in town, about a neighbor who was selling their house. Every time I tried to ask about the important thing they wanted to discuss, my mother would wave her hand and say, "After dinner, honey, let us just enjoy the meal first." So I waited. I ate food that tasted like cardboard because my stomach was too twisted with anticipation to enjoy anything. It was when I was helping my mother clear the dishes that I heard it. Brooke walked past the kitchen doorway talking to Nathan in the hallway. She did not know I could hear her. Finally, she said, her voice bright with satisfaction, "Everything is official now." Nathan shushed her quickly and I heard their footsteps retreat. I stood at the sink with a plate in my hand, water running over my fingers. What did she mean? What was official? I asked my mother, trying to sound casual. "Mom, what was Brooke talking about?" She said something was official. My mother's face flickered with something I could not read. "Oh, you know Brooke," she said quickly, always being dramatic about something or other. "Do not worry about it." But I was worried. I was worried because for the first time I felt like I was the only person in my family who did not know what was happening. I felt like an outsider in my own home, surrounded by people who shared a secret they had deliberately kept from me. I should have trusted that feeling. I should have demanded answers right then. Instead, I finished drying the dishes and walked into the living room, ready to finally hear what my parents had to say. I had no idea that in the next few minutes everything I believed about my place in this family would be shattered. My father stood up from his armchair with a formality that seemed almost rehearsed. He straightened his shirt and cleared his throat, looking at each of us in turn. My mother sat beside him on the couch, her hands folded in her lap, her expression carefully neutral. Nathan and Brooke were on the other couch, sitting close together. They looked calm, almost expectant, like students who already knew the answers before the teacher asked the questions. I sat alone in the chair by the window, the one nobody ever chose because it was too far from the television. It felt appropriate somehow. "Your mother and I want to thank you all for being here," my father began. "We have been doing some planning for the future. We met with a lawyer last month and finalized our will. We wanted you to know what we decided so there are no surprises later." I felt my shoulders relax slightly. This was responsible. This was mature. Parents planning ahead and being transparent with their children. I appreciated that. My father picked up a folder from the side table and opened it. He did not offer to let any of us see the documents. He simply began reading from them as if announcing election results. "The house," he said, "will go to Nathan." I blinked. That seemed significant, but I reasoned that Nathan was the oldest. Perhaps there was a logic to it. "The vehicles and savings accounts will go to Brooke," my father continued. I waited for my name. I waited for the next part. "The furniture and remaining possessions will be divided equally between Nathan and Brooke." My father closed the folder. "That is everything," he said. The room went silent. I looked at my mother, then at my father, then at my siblings. Everyone was watching me, waiting for my reaction like spectators at an event. I finally found my voice. "Wait, what about me?" My mother leaned forward, her tone gentle in that way that always preceded something painful. "Sierra, honey, you already have so much. You have a wonderful career, your own apartment, financial stability. Your brother and sister need more support than you do." I stared at her. My brain was trying to process what I was hearing, but the words kept scrambling. I had paid their mortgage for 7 years. I had covered their bills. I had sacrificed vacations and savings and opportunities so that they could keep this house, and now they were giving it to Nathan. "I think there has been some kind of misunderstanding," I said slowly. "I have been paying the mortgage on this house for 7 years. That is over $120,000. My father nodded as if I had just confirmed a minor detail. "And we appreciate that, Sierra. We really do. But those were gifts. You gave that money because you wanted to help, not because you expected something in return." Nathan spoke up, then his voice carrying that smug tone I had heard too many times throughout our lives. "Come on, Sierra. You make good money. You do not need an inheritance. Some of us have not been as lucky as you." Lucky. He called me lucky. As if luck had anything to do with the years I spent working while he floated from one failed venture to another. Brooke chimed in, nodding sympathetically. "Mom and Dad have their reasons. They are just trying to be fair. You should respect their decision." Fair. They were using that word. Fair. I looked around the room at these people I'd spent my entire life trying to please. My father, who never once acknowledged my sacrifices. My mother, who always found excuses for everyone except me. My brother, who was about to receive a house he never lifted a finger to maintain. My sister, who could not even pay back a simple loan. Something inside me shifted. It was not a crack. It was a door closing. "I want to understand the reasoning," I said, keeping my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "Tell me why. I deserve to know why I have been excluded." My mother sighed heavily as if I was being unreasonable. Fine, you want the truth? Yes, you have always been independent, Sierra. From the time you were a child, you never needed us. You figured everything out on your own. Nathan and Brooke are different. They struggle. They need guidance and support. We are just trying to make sure they are taken care of when we are gone. They struggle because they make poor choices, I replied. Nathan cannot hold a job because he quits every time something gets hard. Brooke spent her entire divorce settlement on vacations instead of building a stable life. Meanwhile, I have been the one actually taking care of this family. Do not talk about your siblings that way, my mother snapped. You have no idea what they have been through. I have been through plenty, I shot back. But nobody ever asks about that, do they? Nobody cares what I have sacrificed. My father's voice turned cold. The decision is final, Sierra. You can either accept it or not. That is your choice. I looked at Nathan. He was smirking slightly, not even bothering to hide his satisfaction. I looked at Brooke. She was examining her fingernails as if this conversation was boring her. I looked at my parents, the people who had raised me, and I saw them clearly for the first time. They were not just being unfair. They were showing me exactly how much I mattered to them. The answer was not at all. I stood up. My legs felt unsteady, but I refused to let them see me falter. I think I need to leave, I said. My mother started to say something, probably some empty reassurance, but I did not stay to hear it. I grabbed my purse and walked out the front door without looking back. I made it to my car before the tears came. I sat in the driver's seat in the darkness, crying quietly, trying to understand how I had given so much and meant so little. I drove home that night in a blur of tears and disbelief. The highway stretched out before me, empty and dark, and I felt like I was driving through a nightmare that I could not wake up from. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. By the time I reached my apartment, it was past midnight. I did not turn on the lights. I just sat on my couch in the darkness, staring at nothing, replaying the evening over and over in my mind. $120,000. That was what I had paid toward their mortgage over 7 years. That did not include the utilities, the insurance, the medical bills, the countless other expenses I had covered. If I added everything together, it was probably closer to $150,000, money I had earned through hard work. Money I had given freely because I thought I was helping my family, and they had thanked me by writing me out of their will. I did not sleep that night. By morning, I had made a decision. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The screen glowed in the early light as I navigated to the automatic payments section. There they were lined up neatly. Mortgage payment, electricity, water, car insurance, health insurance supplement. Every month, like clockwork, money flowed from my account to theirs. I selected each payment. One by one, I canceled them all. My finger hovered over the final confirmation button. A small voice in my head whispered that maybe I was being hasty, that maybe I should talk to them first, that maybe there was an explanation I had not considered. But then I remembered Nathan's smirk, Brooke's indifference, my mother's gentle condescension, my father's cold finality. I pressed confirm. The screen refreshed, showing no scheduled payments. For the first time in 7 years, my money would stay in my account. I closed the laptop and sat back. I expected to feel guilty. I expected to feel anxious. Instead, I felt something unexpected. Relief. The first week passed quietly. I went to work, came home, cooked dinner, watched television. Normal life. Nobody from my family contacted me. I was not surprised. They rarely called unless they needed something, and apparently they did not need anything yet. My best friend Jasmine could tell something was wrong. We had known each other since college, and she could read me like a book. Over coffee at our usual spot, she finally asked me directly. "Okay, spill it," she said. "You have been acting strange all week." What happened? So I told her everything. The family gathering, the will, the realization, the cancelled payments. Jasmine listened without interrupting, her eyes growing wider with each detail. When I finished, she set down her coffee cup with a thunk. "They did. What I know. Sierra, that is insane. You have been supporting them for years and they just cut you out, like you do not even exist." "Pretty much." Jasmine shook her head slowly. "And you stopped paying their bills, every single one." "Good," she said firmly. "You have done enough. More than enough. It is time they figure out how to take care of themselves." Hearing her say that, hearing someone validate what I was feeling, meant more than I could express. I had spent so long being the responsible one, the one who never complained, the one who just handled things. Having someone tell me I was right to finally stop felt like permission I did not know I needed. The second week began and my phone started ringing. The first call came on a Monday morning. I was at work in a meeting, so I let it go to voicemail. When I checked later, I saw 5 missed calls from my mother, 3 from my father, and 2 from Brooke. Nathan had sent a text message consisting of just 3 words. What the hell? I did not respond to any of them. The voicemails were frantic. Sierra, the mortgage payment did not go through. Did something happen with your bank? And then Sierra, the electricity bill is overdue. They are threatening to shut off the power. And finally, Sierra, we need to talk. Call us back immediately. I deleted each message after listening. The calls kept coming throughout the week. My mother's voice grew increasingly desperate. My father's grew increasingly angry. Brooke sent long text messages filled with accusations and guilt trips. Nathan called me selfish, ungrateful, and a few other words I will not repeat. I blocked them all. On the 10th day, my mother showed up at my workplace. I was walking out of the building for lunch when I saw her standing by the entrance. She looked older than I remembered, smaller somehow, her face drawn with worry. Sierra, she said, stepping toward me, please, we need to talk. I considered walking past her. I considered pretending I did not see her. But something made me stop. 5 minutes, I said. That is all you get. We walked to a nearby bench and sat down. The autumn air was crisp, and I pulled my jacket tighter around myself. Sierra, my mother began, her voice trembling. You do not understand how serious this is. The bank is threatening foreclosure. We could lose the house. I looked at her calmly. That sounds like Nathan's problem. It is his house now. Remember, Sierra, please. You cannot just stop helping us. Actually, I can. It is my money. I get to decide what I do with it. My mother reached for my hand, but I pulled away. We made a mistake, she said. We should have included you in the will. We can change it. We can make it equal. Just please start paying again. I studied her face, searching for genuine remorse. All I saw was panic. She was not sorry for hurting me. She was scared of losing her house. Even if you change the will tomorrow, I said slowly, it would not undo what you did. You looked me in the eye and told me I did not deserve anything because I was too successful. You treated me like an ATM machine, not a daughter. That is not something you can just take back. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We did not mean it that way. Then how did you mean it? Explain it to me. Because from where I sit, it looks like you punished me for being responsible while rewarding Nathan and Brooke for being failures. She flinched at the word. They are not failures, she whispered. Compared to what I have given this family, they certainly are. We sat in silence for a moment. The lunch crowd moved around us, people hurrying to restaurants and coffee shops, oblivious to the small tragedy unfolding on a park bench. Then my mother said something that changed everything. Sierra, there is something you need to know about the house. I waited. She took a deep breath. Do you remember about 5 years ago when your father and I had that issue with our credit? I remembered. They had tried to refinance the mortgage to get a lower interest rate, but their credit scores were too low. Something about late payments and old debts they had never resolved. We could not qualify for the refinancing, my mother continued. The bank was going to reject us completely. So we asked you to help. I frowned. You asked me to co-sign some paperwork. You said it was just to help with the application. My mother looked down at her hands. It was more than that. What do you mean? She finally met my eyes. The house is in your name, Sierra. You are the legal owner. The world seemed to stop. Sounds faded away. The people walking past us became blurs. All I could focus on was my mother's face and the words she had just spoken. In my name, I repeated slowly. The house is in my name. My mother nodded, unable to meet my eyes anymore. When the bank rejected our refinancing, the only option was to have someone with good credit take over the mortgage. You signed the papers. Legally, the house transferred to you. We were supposed to transfer it back once our credit improved, but that never happened. My mind raced back 5 years. I remembered my mother calling me, sounding stressed, asking me to come over and sign some documents. She had said it was just routine paperwork, something to help them with a loan application. I had trusted her. I had signed without reading everything carefully because I trusted her. I had been 27 years old, still believing that my parents would never deceive me. So let me understand this correctly, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. You put the house in my name without clearly telling me. You had me pay the mortgage on a property I legally own, and then you announced in your will that you were leaving it to Nathan. My mother winced. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. It sounds bad because it is bad. You were going to take a house that legally belongs to me and give it to my brother. How exactly did you think that would work? We thought we would transfer it back before anything happened to us, she stammered. We just never got around to it. I stood up abruptly. My legs felt weak, but I forced them to hold me. What about the car? I demanded. The one Dad drives. Is that in my name too? My mother's silence was answer enough. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Amazing. You used me. You used my good credit, my money, and my name to maintain a lifestyle you could not afford on your own. And then you decided I did not deserve any of it. Sierra, please, my mother reached for me again. We are done here, I said, stepping back. Do not contact me again. I walked away before she could respond. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding. But beneath the shock and the anger, something else was growing. Power. That afternoon, I made a call to Mr. Davidson, an attorney who specialized in real estate and estate law. I explained the situation as clearly as I could, and he asked me to bring in any documents I could find. I spent the next few days gathering everything. Bank statements showing 7 years of mortgage payments from my account. The original papers I had signed 5 years ago. Property records from the county assessor's office. When I laid it all out on Mr. Davidson's desk, he reviewed it with a careful eye. Your mother was telling the truth, he said finally. The house is legally yours, the deed is in your name, you have been making all the payments. In the eyes of the law, this is your property. Can they challenge that? I asked. They can try, but they would lose. You have documentation of every payment. You have the deed. And most importantly, you never signed anything transferring ownership back to them. What about the car? He shuffled through more papers. Same situation. The vehicle your father drives is registered in your name. You are the legal owner. I sat back in my chair processing this information. For 7 years, I had thought I was helping my parents keep their house. It turned out I had been paying for my own property without even knowing it. Then Mr. Davidson told me something that made my blood run cold. There is something else, he said. 3 years ago, your parents took out a home equity loan on the property. $40,000. I froze. I did not know about that. The documents show they used your name and forged your signature. Technically, that is fraud. $40,000. They had borrowed $40,000 against a house they did not even own, using my identity without my knowledge or consent. What happened to the money? I asked. Mr. Davidson shook his head. I cannot tell you that. But if you want to pursue criminal charges for the forgery, you would have options. I thought about that. Criminal charges against my own parents. It felt extreme even after everything they had done. I need some time to think, I said. Of course, but in the meantime, you should know that as the legal owner of the property, you have full rights to do whatever you want with it. Sell it, rent it, live in it. It is entirely up to you. I left his office with a folder full of documents and a head full of possibilities. That night, I called my mother. Not because I wanted to reconcile, I wanted answers. The $40,000, I said when she answered. Where did it go? Silence on the other end. I know about the home equity loan. I know you forged my signature. Now tell me where the money went. My mother's voice came out small and broken. We gave it to Nathan. For his business. His business. Nathan had tried to start some kind of online retail company 3 years ago. It had failed within 6 months. I had heard about it vaguely at the time but never knew the details. So you committed fraud in my name to fund Nathan's failed business, I said flatly. And you did not think I deserved to know. We were going to pay it back, my mother whispered. But you did not. You just added it to the mortgage that I was already paying. You let me cover your crime. Sierra, please, we were desperate. You were desperate to help Nathan. You were never desperate to help me. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up and sat in the silence of my apartment. I had all the information I needed now. I had all the power. The only question was what to do with it. I did not sleep much that night. My mind kept turning over the possibilities, weighing options, calculating outcomes. By morning, I had made my decision. I called Mr. Davidson and told him I wanted to sell the house. He handled everything with professional efficiency. Within a week, the property was listed. Within 3 weeks, we had multiple offers. The housing market in our area was strong and the house was in good condition despite everything. Before the sale could proceed, I had to deal with my family. I drafted an email and sent it to my parents, Nathan and Brooke. I ceded Mr. Davidson to make it official. The message was clear and direct. As you now know, the house at this address is legally owned by me. After careful consideration, I've decided to sell the property. You have 30 days to remove your belongings. Any items left after that date will be disposed of. Please direct any questions to my attorney. The responses came almost immediately. Nathan called me 17 times in 1 hour. I did not answer. Brooke sent a text message so long it took multiple screens to read. The gist of it was that I was a monster, a traitor, and destroying the family. My father left a voicemail calling me things I will not repeat. My mother sent a simple text, please do not do this. I did not respond to any of them. The next few weeks were chaos. Nathan hired a lawyer to challenge my ownership, but after reviewing the documents, his own attorney told him he had no case. Brooke tried to turn other family members against me, calling aunts and uncles and cousins to tell them her version of events. Some of them reached out to me asking what was happening. I told them the truth and let them draw their own conclusions. My parents tried to physically prevent potential buyers from viewing the house. I had to involve the police twice to enforce my rights as the property owner. It was ugly. It was painful. But I did not back down. The house sold for $320,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage, the home equity loan my parents had fraudulently taken out, and various fees and taxes, I walked away with $128,000. $128,000 that represented everything I had given to a family that never appreciated me. It was not revenge. It was balance. I also sold the car. My father had to find other transportation, which he complained about loudly to anyone who would listen. I did not care. On the day my parents moved out of the house, I did not go to watch. Jasmine went instead to make sure they did not damage anything or take things they were not supposed to take. They moved into a small apartment across town. Nathan went to live with his girlfriend. Brooke rented a room from a coworker. My mother sent me one final message that night. I hope you are happy destroying your family. I read it once, then blocked her number permanently. In the weeks that followed, I began rebuilding my life. I paid off the last of my student loans with some of the money. I opened a new retirement account and made a substantial contribution, and for the first time in years, I booked a vacation. I went to Hawaii. By myself, for an entire week. I remember lying on the beach on my second day there, listening to the waves, feeling the sun on my skin. I thought about everything that had happened. The family gathering where my parents announced their will, the revelation about the house being in my name, the sale, the aftermath. I had lost my family. Or rather, I had finally accepted that I never really had one. What I had was a role. I was the provider, the supporter, the one who made things possible for everyone else. When I stopped playing that role, they stopped pretending to care about me. But in losing them, I'd found something else. I had found myself. 6 months passed. Life settled into a new rhythm. I received a promotion at work. My boss had noticed my improved focus and energy. Without the constant drain of supporting my family, I had more to give to my career. I became a manager overseeing a team of accountants, earning more than I ever had before. I bought a small house for myself. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom place with a little backyard where I could grow tomatoes in the summer. I chose it carefully, read every document twice, and made sure the deed was in my name and only my name. Jasmine helped me paint the walls and pick out furniture. We spent a weekend assembling bookshelves and hanging pictures, laughing about nothing, enjoying the simple pleasure of friendship. I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Reeves, and she helped me understand things I had never examined before. Why I had always felt the need to earn love through sacrifice. Why I had tolerated treatment that no one should accept. Why standing up for myself felt simultaneously terrifying and liberating. She told me something I have never forgotten. Your worth is not determined by what you give to others. It exists independently, inherently, simply because you exist. I was still processing that when an unexpected email arrived. It was from Brooke, my sister. The one who had called me a monster and a traitor. The one who had tried to turn the whole family against me. Her message was different from anything she had ever sent me before. Sierra, she wrote, I know you probably will not read this. I would not blame you if you deleted it immediately. But I wanted to say something I should have said a long time ago. I am sorry. I have been thinking a lot about how we grew up, about how Mom and Dad always treated you differently. At the time, I did not question it. I just accepted the benefits without considering what it cost you. I took your money, your help, your time, and I never once thanked you properly. I never once saw you as anything other than the capable sister who could handle anything. I was wrong. You were not capable because you were born that way. You became capable because you had no choice. No one was ever going to help you, so you learned to help yourself. And instead of admiring that we exploited it, I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not even know if I deserve forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what we did, and I am ashamed. I hope you are happy wherever you are. I hope you have found people who treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Your sister Brooke. I read the email 3 times, then I closed my laptop and walked outside. I sat on my back porch watching the evening light fade across my little backyard, thinking about my sister's words. I did not know if I would ever respond. I did not know if reconciliation was possible or even desirable. The wounds ran deep, and some scars never fully heal. But something about her message felt genuine in a way nothing from my family had ever felt before. Maybe people could change. Maybe Brooke had learned something from watching everything fall apart. Or maybe it was just another manipulation, another attempt to get something from me. I decided I did not need to decide right away. I could take my time. I could protect myself while remaining open to possibility. That was a balance I was still learning. 6 months became a year. The holidays came and went without contact from my parents or Nathan. Brooke sent me a Christmas card with a simple message inside. Thinking of you. I did not respond, but I did not throw it away either. Life continued. I traveled more. I made new friends. I started painting again, something I had loved as a child but abandoned when I was told it was not practical. My therapist said it was good to reconnect with parts of myself I had left behind. On the 1-year anniversary of selling my parents' house, I treated myself to dinner at a nice restaurant. I sat alone at a table by the window, eating salmon and drinking wine, watching the city lights flicker outside. A year ago, I had been the invisible daughter, the ATM with a heartbeat, the one who gave everything and received nothing. Now I was something else entirely. I was Sierra, 33 years old, manager, homeowner, artist, friend. I was a woman who had learned the hard way that family is not just blood. Family is the people who show up for you, who value you, who love you, not for what you can provide, but for who you are. I had built a new family now. Jasmine was part of it. So were colleagues who had become genuine friends. So was Dr. Reeves in her own way. So was the barista at my local coffee shop who always remembered my order and asked about my day. Family was not the people who shared my DNA. Family was the people who shared my life. And that was a lesson worth every dollar I had lost, every tear I'd cried, every moment of pain I had endured. Looking back now, I realized that invitation to the family gathering was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because of what my parents announced, because of what their announcement revealed. For 32 years, I had been performing a role. The good daughter, the responsible one, the one who sacrificed without complaint and expected nothing in return. I thought if I played that role perfectly enough, I would eventually receive love and appreciation, but that was a lie I told myself. The truth was harder and simpler. Some people are not capable of giving love freely. Some people see relationships as transactions, as opportunities, as means to an end. My parents loved me in their own way, I suppose. But their way was conditional. Their way had fine print. Their way meant I was valuable only as long as I was useful. When I stopped being useful, I stopped mattering. That is a painful thing to accept about your own family. There were nights when I cried about it. Nights when I doubted myself. Nights when I wondered if I had made the wrong choice. Maybe I should have kept paying. Maybe I should have accepted my role. Maybe belonging even conditionally was better than not belonging at all. But then I would wake up in the morning in my own house with my own money in the bank, and I would remember, I am not obligated to set myself on fire to keep others warm. That phrase became my mantra. Dr. Reeves had said it during one of our early sessions, and it stuck with me like nothing else ever had. For so long I had been burning, and I had called it love. I had called it duty. I had called it being a good daughter. It was none of those things. It was self-destruction dressed up as virtue. I do not hate my family. Hating them would mean they still control my emotions, still occupy space in my heart that I need for other things. I have simply accepted that they are who they are. Nathan will always chase shortcuts and wonder why success eludes him. Brooke might be changing or she might not. My parents will go to their graves believing they did nothing wrong. That is their journey. It is not mine. My journey now is about building a life that fulfills me. It is about surrounding myself with people who appreciate me not for what I can give them, but for who I am. It is about pursuing the things that make me happy, whether that is painting or traveling or simply sitting in my backyard watching the sunset. I have learned that boundaries are not cruel. They are necessary. Saying no to people who exploit you is not selfish. It is survival. Walking away from toxicity is not abandonment, it is self-respect. I do not know what the future holds. Maybe Brooke and I will reconnect someday. Maybe my parents will have a change of heart. Maybe Nathan will finally grow up. Or maybe none of those things will happen, and that will have to be okay too. What I know is this: I am no longer waiting for their approval. I am no longer measuring my worth by their standards. I am no longer the invisible daughter hoping to be seen. I see myself now, and that is enough. If you are listening to this story and you recognize yourself in it, if you are the one in your family who gives and gets nothing back, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not what you provide. You deserve relationships that fill you up, not drain you dry. You deserve to take up space in your own life, to have your own dreams, to spend your own money on your own happiness. It is not easy to break free from the role you have been assigned. It feels like betrayal at first, like you are the one doing something wrong. But that feeling is a lie. It is the lie they need you to believe, so you will keep giving. The truth is simpler. The truth is that you matter, your needs matter, your boundaries matter, your life matters, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who cannot see that. I walked away. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. It was also the best. Before I go, I have a question for you. Have you ever had to stand up to your own family? Have you ever had to choose yourself over people who were supposed to love you unconditionally? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you have not already, subscribed to this channel so you do not miss more stories like this one. If you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who is giving too much to people who give nothing back, please share this video with them. Sometimes hearing someone else's story is the permission we need to change our own. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough to spend these minutes with me. I wish you strength. I wish you courage. I wish you the peace that comes from finally knowing your own worth. Take care of yourself. You are the only you there is, and that makes you irreplaceable.